Captain Marcus Webb stared at the glowing screen in front of him as the strange signal pulsed through the speakers of the Terran Deep Space Monitoring Station Vigilance. The sound was unlike anything he had heard in his 20 years of monitoring. Deep space communications. It was desperate and filled with what could only be described as pure terror. Dr. Elena Vasquez rushed into the control room with her translation, equipment still beeping from the automated alert system that had woken her from sleep. "What do we have, Marcus?" she asked while plugging her devices into the main console. Her expertise in alien languages had made her invaluable to the station ever since. Humanity joined the Galactic Collective 3 years ago. Most aliens still avoided humans because of their classification as a Class 7 Deathworld species. The designation meant that Earth was considered one of the most dangerous planets in known space, and its inhabitants were viewed with a mixture of fear and fascination. Lieutenant Tom Bradley looked up from his communication station with confusion written across his face. "The signal is coming from the Villani Republic sector, Captain. It's being broadcast on all emergency frequencies simultaneously." The Villani were known throughout the galaxy as peaceful butterfly-like creatures who preferred trade and diplomacy over any form of conflict. Their technology was among the most advanced in the collective, but their physical bodies were fragile compared to most other species. Dr. Vasquez frowned as her translation software began processing the alien language. The Villani dialect was complex and filled with emotional undertones that were difficult for most species to understand. "This is strange, Marcus. The message is specifically asking for help from Sol 3 inhabitants. They're asking for humans by name." She paused as more of the translation came through. "They say their entire star system is under attack by something called the Kroger Empire." Webb felt a chill run down his spine. The Kroger were known throughout the galaxy as brutal conquerors who enslaved weaker civilizations. They had been expanding their territory for centuries and showed no mercy to anyone who stood in their way. "Why would the Villani specifically ask for our help, Elena? Most species in the collective think we're too dangerous to associate with." "Because they're desperate, Marcus," came a voice from the entrance. Ambassador Kethver entered the control room with his usual calm demeanor despite the early hour. The tall, blue-skinned diplomat had been stationed on vigilance to help facilitate human integration into galactic society. "The Villani have heard rumors about human military capabilities. Stories about your species' ability to adapt and survive in impossible situations have spread throughout the outer sectors." Dr. Vasquez continued working on the translation as more details emerged from the distress signal. "They're providing coordinates, Marcus. Not just for their home system, but for multiple colonies." Her face grew pale as the scope of the situation became clear. 17 different star systems are under attack. The Kroger aren't just raiding, they're conducting a full-scale invasion of Villani space. Lieutenant Bradley's communication equipment suddenly erupted with new signals. "Captain, we're receiving reports from Galactic Command. They're ordering all member species to maintain their current positions and avoid any involvement in the Villani-Kroger conflict. They classify it as an internal matter between non-collective species." Webb stood up from his chair and began pacing around the control room. The decision facing him was not an easy one. Galactic Command had made their position clear, but the distress call from the Villani was impossible to ignore. "How long would it take for a human fleet to reach Villani space, Tom?" he asked while studying the star charts displayed on the main screen. "Approximately 6 days, Captain, assuming they leave within the next 12 hours. Bradley's fingers moved quickly across his console as he calculated travel times and fleet positions. "The closest human military assets are the Expeditionary Force stationed near the Outer Rim." Ambassador Kethver stepped closer to the main console and examined the incoming data. "Captain Webb, you must understand what you're considering. Humans responding to this distress call would be seen as an act of aggression by many collective members. Your species is already viewed with suspicion, and this could make things much worse." Dr. Vasquez looked up from her translation work with tears in her eyes. "Marcus, they're describing what the Kroger are doing to civilian populations. They're not just conquering these worlds, they're harvesting the inhabitants, using them as slaves and worse. Her voice broke as she continued reading the translated messages. Children Marcus. They're specifically targeting Villani children because they're easier to control? The control room fell silent as everyone processed the horrific information. Webb felt anger building inside him as he thought about the innocent beings suffering while the galaxy's leaders chose to look the other way. What's the current status of our deep space communication array, Tom? Can we reach Earth Command directly? Yes. Captain, but any message will take approximately 4 hours to reach them and another 4 for a response. We don't have that kind of time if we want to help the Villani. Bradley's statement hung in the air as everyone realized the impossible situation they faced. Webb walked over to the observation window and stared out at the stars. Somewhere out there, an entire civilization was being destroyed, while political considerations prevented anyone from helping. Elena, how certain are you about the translation? Could there be any mistake about what the Kroger are doing? I've run the translation through multiple verification protocols, Marcus. The message is clear. The Kroger Empire is committing genocide against the Villani Republic, and they're asking specifically for human intervention. Dr. Vasquez saved her translation work and turned to face the captain. They know what asking for our help means. They understand that humans are considered dangerous by most galactic standards, but they're asking anyway. Ambassador Kethver placed a hand on Webb's shoulder. Captain, whatever decision you make will have consequences that extend far beyond this situation. If humans respond to this distress call, it will change how the galaxy views your species forever. You could be starting something that cannot be stopped. Webb turned back to face his crew and the ambassador. His 20 years of military service had taught him many things, but the most important lesson was that sometimes doing the right thing required ignoring orders from people who weren't facing the consequences of inaction. Tom, send a priority message to Admiral Stone. With the Expeditionary Force, include all the data we've collected about the Kroger invasion and the Villani distress call. Sir, that message will be intercepted by Galactic Command Monitoring Systems. They'll know we're violating their direct orders. Bradley's concern was obvious, but he began preparing the message anyway. Let them know, Tom. Sometimes the right choice isn't the easy choice. Webb returned to his command chair and activated the station's emergency protocols. Elena, I want you to send a response to the Villani distress call. Tell them that Sol 3 has received their message and help is coming. Dr. Vasquez nodded and began composing the response message. What should I tell them about timeframe, Marcus? Webb looked at the star charts one more time and made his decision. Tell them to hold on for 6 days, Elena. Tell them that the Deathworlders are coming and the Kroger have made their last mistake. As the message was transmitted into space, Webb knew that he had just changed the course of galactic history. The question now was whether humanity was ready for what would come next. Admiral Rebecca Stone stood on the bridge of the UES Defiance as her fleet dropped out of hyperspace near Villani Prime. The sight that greeted them was worse than anything the distress calls had described. Massive Kroger warships hung like dark clouds above the beautiful blue and green world, while smaller vessels moved between the planet and large processing stations that had been hastily constructed in orbit. Smoke and fire could be seen rising from multiple points on the planet's surface where cities had once stood. My God, whispered Colonel James Rivera as he joined the Admiral at the main viewing screen. The Marine Corps' tactical specialist had seen many battlefields during his career, but the systematic destruction being carried out by the Kroger forces was unlike anything in human military history. How many people do you think were down there before this started? Dr. Amanda Cross checked her readings from the science station. According to Galactic Collective Records, Villani Prime had a population of approximately 800 million before the invasion began. Current life sign readings suggest less than 200 million remain on the planet. Her voice remained steady despite the horrible mathematics she was reporting. High Counselor, Thylara-S communication signal reached the human fleet from a hidden bunker deep beneath the planet's surface. The elderly Villani Leader appeared on the main screen with her beautiful wings torn and her large compound eyes filled with exhaustion. Humans of Sol 3, we did not expect such a large response to our call for help. We thought perhaps a small diplomatic vessel would come. Admiral Stone stepped forward to address the alien leader. Counselor, we don't do small responses when civilians are being murdered. My fleet consists of 47 ships with full military complements. We're here to end this invasion and drive the Kroger from your space. The confidence in her voice seemed to give the Villani leader hope for the first time in weeks. Admiral, you must understand what you face, Thylara continued. The Kroger have over 200 vessels in our system, and their technology is superior to anything we possessed. They have been conquering worlds for centuries, and their experience in warfare far exceeds our own. Her warning was interrupted by explosions visible on the planet's surface as Kroger forces continued their systematic destruction. War Master Gorthic's voice suddenly boomed across all communication channels as the Kroger commander demanded to speak with the human fleet. The massive reptilian alien appeared on screen with his scarred face twisted into what might have been amusement. So the famous Deathworlders have come to play hero. I have heard stories about your species, but you are clearly not intelligent enough to recognize superior force when you see it. Colonel Rivera studied the Kroger commander's image and noticed details that others might miss. The alien's armor showed signs of recent combat, and there were stress markers in his body language that suggested the invasion had not been as easy as expected. Admiral, this isn't going as smoothly for them as they want us to believe. Look at the positioning of their ships. They're not confident about their orbital dominance. Admiral Stone nodded and opened a channel to respond to the Kroger commander. War Master Gorthic, I am Admiral Rebecca Stone of the Human Expeditionary Force. You have exactly 1 hour to cease all hostile actions against the Villani Republic and begin withdrawing your forces from this system. Failure to comply will result in the immediate destruction of your invasion fleet. The Kroger commander's laughter filled the bridge of every ship in both fleets. Humans, you are either incredibly brave or incredibly stupid. My forces outnumber yours 5-1, and our weapons technology is generations ahead of anything your primitive species has developed. I will give you the same choice I gave the Villani. Surrender now and serve the Kroger Empire or be destroyed. Where you stand. Dr. Cross had been analyzing the Kroger fleet composition during the exchange, and her findings were troubling. Admiral, their ships are indeed more advanced than ours in terms of raw firepower and defensive capabilities. However, I'm detecting some interesting patterns in their formation and tactical deployment that suggest they're not accustomed to facing organized resistance. What do you mean, Amanda? Stone asked while keeping one eye on the countdown timer. She had started when issuing her ultimatum to the Kroger forces. Their ships are positioned for intimidation rather than optimal combat effectiveness, Admiral. They're spread out to look impressive, but that formation has significant weaknesses that a coordinated attack could exploit. It's as if they've become accustomed to enemies who surrender rather than fight back. Dr. Cross transmitted her tactical analysis to all human ships in the fleet. Colonel Rivera smiled as he reviewed the data. Admiral, these aliens have been bullying their way across the galaxy for so long, they've forgotten how to fight a real war. They're expecting the Villani response, not the human response. He activated his communication link to the Marine assault ships. All units prepare for combat deployment. Standard Deathworld tactics apply. High Counselor Thylara watched in amazement as the human fleet began moving into attack formation. Admiral Stone, what are Deathworld tactics? We have heard this term, but do not understand its meaning in military context. Admiral Stone checked her chronometer and saw that 58 minutes had passed since her ultimatum. Counselor, Deathworld tactics means we don't fight fair. We fight to win. She opened the fleet-wide communication channel. All ships, this is Admiral Stone. War Master Gorthic has had his hour and chosen violence over wisdom. Engage all Kroger targets. Show them why you don't threaten a Deathworld species. The first exchange of fire revealed exactly what Dr. Cross had predicted. The Kroger ships opened fire with massive energy weapons that could have destroyed any single human vessel. but their targeting was designed for large, slow-moving targets that would try to avoid combat. The human ships scattered in all directions using tactics that seemed random but were actually carefully coordinated assault patterns developed through centuries of warfare on Earth. War-Master. Gorthic's confident expression changed to confusion. As his fleet's opening salvo missed most of their targets, "What kind of maneuvers are these?" he demanded as human ships appeared to dance between his weapon strikes while returning fire with surgical precision. "No species fights like this. Where is their formation? Where is their discipline?" "Sir, the humans are not fighting like any enemy we have encountered before," reported his tactical officer. "They appear to be treating this as some kind of three-dimensional puzzle rather than a traditional space battle. Their ships are working together, but not in any recognizable pattern." Colonel Rivera's Marines were already launching assault pods toward Kroger vessels while the space battle raged around them. "All assault teams, remember your training. Kroger psychology profiles indicate they respond poorly to unexpected boarding actions. Hit them hard and fast, then disappear before they can organize a response." The human special forces had studied every available piece of information about their enemies during the 6-day journey to Villani space. Dr. Cross monitored the engagement from her science station and noticed something troubling in the enemy communication patterns. "Admiral, I'm detecting encrypted transmissions between the Kroger fleet and something beyond our sensor range. They're not just reporting on this battle, they're calling for reinforcements." Admiral Stone felt a chill as she realized the implications. "How long before those reinforcements arrive, Amanda?" "Based on the transmission delay and typical Kroger fleet speeds, I estimate 72 hours, Admiral." Dr. Cross looked up from her instruments with concern. The message they sent was priority level and addressed to someone with the title Supreme Overlord. This invasion force was just the advance. God. The realization that they were facing not just the current Kroger fleet but potentially much larger forces changed everything about the tactical situation. Admiral Stone opened a channel to High Counselor Thylara. "Counselor, we need to know everything your people learned about Kroger operations during their occupation. We may have won this battle, but the war is just beginning." General David Park studied the holographic display showing Kroger military positions across 17 star systems as his command ship moved through hyperspace toward the next target. The human response to the Villani crisis had grown far beyond a simple rescue mission as intelligence reports revealed the true scope of Kroger operations in this sector. Captain Lisa Morgan stood beside him reviewing infiltration data that her Special Forces teams had gathered during their covert missions behind enemy lines. "The pattern is consistent across all occupied systems, General," Morgan reported while highlighting key points on the tactical display. "The Kroger follow the same operational doctrine everywhere they go. Overwhelming initial assault followed by systematic population harvesting and resource extraction. They've been using these methods for so long that they've become predictable." Pilot. Commander Rick Thompson joined the briefing after returning from a reconnaissance mission to the outer systems. "General, the Kroger fleet composition is interesting. They have massive firepower, but their ships are designed for intimidation rather than prolonged combat. Their crews are trained to expect quick surrenders from technologically inferior species." His fighter squadron had spent the last 48 hours mapping enemy positions and communication networks. Engineer Prime Kalanira's image appeared on the communication screen as the Villani technology specialist joined the briefing from her hidden research facility. "Humans of Sol 3, my people, have been analyzing the data you provided about Kroger military systems. Their technology is indeed superior to ours in many ways, but it has a critical weakness. They rely heavily on centralized command and control networks." General Park nodded as he began to see the possibilities. "Kalanira, are you saying their entire military structure depends on maintaining communication with their command ships?" The implications of such a centralized system were obvious to anyone trained in human military doctrine. Captain Morgan. "What did your infiltration teams discover about their communication security?" "It's impressive but predictable, General," Morgan replied with a slight smile. The Kroger use quantum encryption that would be nearly impossible to break using conventional methods. However, they never considered that someone might physically infiltrate their command networks rather than trying to crack them remotely. She activated a small device that projected detailed schematics of Kroger ship interiors. My teams have been inside 12 different Kroger vessels over the past 3 days. We've mapped their security protocols, identified key personnel, and most importantly, we've planted human-designed viruses in their computer systems. Morgan's special forces were experts at what human military doctrine called asymmetric warfare. The viruses are dormant until activated, but once triggered, they will create chaos throughout their entire fleet network. Pilot Thompson pointed to specific locations on the star charts. General, my pilots have been working with Kalanira's people to map local space phenomena that could be used tactically. The Kroger navigate using standard galactic positioning systems, but they don't account for the unique gravitational anomalies in this sector. His expression showed the kind of satisfaction that came from turning an enemy's advantages against them. What kind of anomalies? Commander Park asked while studying the areas Thompson had highlighted. Micro-black holes created by ancient stellar collapses, General. They're too small to detect with standard sensors, but they create gravitational eddies that can trap or redirect spacecraft if you know exactly where they are. Thompson's tactical display showed dozens of these invisible hazards scattered throughout the system. The Villani have been navigating around them for centuries. The Kroger have no idea they exist. Overlord Vexthun's image suddenly appeared on all human military communication channels as the Supreme Kroger commander demanded to speak with the human leadership. The massive alien's appearance was even more intimidating than War Master Gorthik had been, with cybernetic enhancements covering much of his body and scars that spoke of centuries of warfare. Humans, you have interfered with Kroger operations for the last time. I am bringing the full might of the Kroger battle fleet to crush your pathetic rescue mission. General Park stepped forward to respond while his staff continued working on their tactical preparations. Overlord Vexthun, I am General David Park of the Human Military Command. You are conducting genocide against innocent civilians, and we are here to stop you. Withdraw from Villani space immediately or face the consequences. The Kroger commanders. Laughter was filled with genuine amusement. General, your species may be brave, but you are clearly not intelligent. My fleet consists of over 300 vessels with crews trained in warfare since before your civilization discovered fire. What could a handful of Deathworlders possibly do against such overwhelming force? We could teach you about human military doctrine, Overlord, Park replied calmly. Lesson 1 is that Deathworlders don't fight fair, we fight to win. He closed the communication channel and turned to his staff. All units prepare for Operation Mousetrap. Captain Morgan, activate all planted viruses on my signal. Commander Thompson, coordinate with Villani navigation specialists for gravitational trap deployment. Engineer Prime Kalanira had been monitoring Kroger communication networks, and her readings were troubling. General Park, I am detecting massive energy signatures approaching this system. The Kroger reinforcement fleet is larger than anything we anticipated. Over 400 vessels, including Dreadnought-class ships we have never seen before. Captain Morgan checked her infiltration data and found additional information. General, the viruses my teams planted have been gathering intelligence on Kroger operations. They're not just running a military campaign, they're fleeing from something. Deep in their databases are references to an enemy that forced them to become nomadic conquerors. What kind of enemy? Captain Park asked while studying the new intelligence data. The files are heavily encrypted, but what I can read mentions something called the Devourers. Ancient machines that consume organic life and have been chasing the Kroger across the galaxy for thousands of years. Morgan's expression grew concerned as she continued reading. General, the Kroger aren't just conquering these systems for resources. They're looking for somewhere to make a final stand against whatever is following them. Pilot Thompson was monitoring long-range sensors when his equipment began detecting new signatures beyond the approaching Kroger fleet. General, we have contacts at extreme sensor range. Multiple vessels of unknown configuration approaching from deep space. They're massive, sir. much larger than anything in the Kroger fleet. The tactical situation had just become far more complicated than anyone had anticipated. General Park realized that the human intervention in the Villani crisis had attracted attention from forces that might threaten not just this sector but potentially the entire galaxy. All units maintain combat readiness but hold fire until we can identify these new contacts. Kalanira, I need you to analyze any historical data your people have about ancient machine civilizations. Engineer Prime Kalanira's voice carried new urgency as she responded. General, my people have legends about the time before the Great Silence when ancient builders created wonders beyond imagination. The stories speak of machines that could build or destroy entire worlds according to their programming. Her research equipment was already scanning databases that had not been accessed for millennia. Captain Morgan, do your infiltration teams have any additional intelligence about these devourers? Park asked while watching the approaching signatures on his long-range displays. General, the Kroger file suggests these machines have been systematically eliminating organic life throughout this galaxy for over 50,000 years. The Kroger are apparently one of the last major civilizations still fleeing from them. Morgan paused as she processed the implications. Sir, if these things are as dangerous as the Kroger data suggests, then our intervention here may have drawn their attention to human space as well. General Park felt the weight of command as he realized that trying to save the Villani Republic might have endangered all of human civilization. The approaching Devourer fleet represented a threat, unlike anything humanity had ever faced, and their response would determine not just the fate of this sector, but possibly the survival of all organic life in the galaxy. Fleet Admiral Jackson Hayes watched from the bridge of the UES Prometheus as the massive Devourer ships emerged from the darkness of deep space like mechanical nightmares given form. Each vessel was the size of a small moon with surfaces covered in geometric patterns that seemed to shift and change as they moved through space. Major Sandra Kim stood beside him analyzing psychological warfare data while Chief Petty Officer Mike Chun worked frantically to understand the alien technology that defied everything humans knew about physics and engineering. Admiral the Kroger fleet is in full retreat, reported War Leader Zakthan from his damaged command ship. The proud Kroger commander who had once threatened to enslave entire star systems now sounded terrified as he watched his ancient enemies arrive. You humans do not understand what you have awakened. The Devourers have found us again, and they will consume everything in their path, including your precious Earth. Major Kim had been studying Kroger psychological profiles, and their behavior patterns were revealing. Admiral, fear is not something these aliens experience often, but they're genuinely terrified of these machines. According to the data Captain Morgan's teams gathered, the Kroger have been running from the Devourers for over 3,000 years since their original homeworld was consumed. Chief Chun looked up from his analysis station with confusion written across his face. Admiral, I'm reading energy signatures from the Devourer ships that shouldn't be possible. They're drawing power directly from quantum vacuum fluctuations and converting matter to energy at 100% efficiency. This technology is thousands of years ahead of anything in the galactic collective. The Devourer Herald's voice suddenly filled every communication channel in the system as the ancient, artificial intelligence spoke for the first time in millennia. The sound was unlike anything organic, with harmonics that seemed to resonate directly in the minds of everyone who heard it. Organic life forms identified. Kroger species cataloged for processing. Unknown species detected. Analyzing biological and technological signatures. Admiral Hayes stepped forward to respond while his fleet maintained defensive positions around the remaining Villani worlds. This is Fleet Admiral Jackson Hayes of the Human Space Force. Identify yourselves and state your intentions in this system. His training had taught him to project confidence even when facing overwhelming odds, but the scale of the Devourer fleet was unlike anything in human military experience. Query acknowledged, the Herald responded after a pause that lasted exactly 4.7 seconds. We are the Devourers created by the Makers to prepare the galaxy for their return. Mission parameters require elimination of all non-Maker organic life to prevent contamination of Maker worlds. The mechanical voice showed no emotion as it described genocide on a galactic scale. Chief Chun was analyzing the communication patterns when his equipment detected something unexpected. Admiral, the Devourer communication systems are interfacing with our computer networks in ways that shouldn't be possible. They're not just talking to us, they're scanning our technology and biological data. His concern was obvious as he watched alien code attempting to penetrate human security systems. Mike, what are they finding? Hayes asked while watching the massive alien ships move into attack formation. So they're focusing on human genetic patterns and technological signatures. It's as if they're comparing our data to some kind of reference template. Chun paused as new information appeared on his screens. Admiral, this is impossible, but according to their scans, we're showing genetic markers that match something in their database. Something they call Maker DNA. War leader Zakvin's communication channel crackled with static as his ship suffered another system failure. Humans, you must listen to me. The Devourers were created by an ancient civilization that disappeared 50,000 years ago. They have been searching for their creators ever since, while destroying every other form of life they encounter. His voice carried desperation as he continued. If they think you are related to their makers, then everything changes. The machines will either worship you or try to destroy you as imposters. Major Kim was analyzing the psychological implications. When her equipment detected changes in Devourer behavior patterns, Admiral, their formation is shifting. Instead of preparing for systematic destruction, they're moving into what appears to be a protective configuration around our fleet. The Herald is requesting permission to interface directly with our command systems. Admiral Hayes felt the weight of a decision that could determine the fate of multiple civilizations. Chief Chun, what would happen if we allow this interface? Unknown, Admiral, but based on their technology level, they could take control of our entire fleet in seconds if they wanted to. The fact that they're asking permission suggests something significant about how they view us. Chun's analysis was interrupted by new readings from the Devourer ships. Sir, I'm detecting massive power buildups throughout their fleet, but they're not targeting us. They're targeting something else. The long-range sensors suddenly detected new contacts dropping out of hyperspace at the edge of the system. A massive Kroger armada had arrived with over 500 vessels, including super dreadnoughts that dwarfed anything previously seen. The Kroger High Command had committed everything they had to this final confrontation with their ancient enemies. All organic life forms prepare for battle, announced Supreme War Master Thakalon from his flagship. Today we make our stand against the machines. Admiral Hayes realized that humanity had become caught in the middle of a war that had raged for millennia between organic life and artificial intelligence. All human vessels maintain position and prepare for combat. Major Kim, I need you to establish communication with both the Kroger commanders and the Devourer Herald. We need to understand what we're dealing with before anyone starts shooting. The Devourer Herald responded immediately to the human request. Admiral Hayes, your genetic patterns indicate 97.3% compatibility with Maker biological templates. Your technological development follows predicted Maker evolutionary paths. Query: are you the descendants of the builders who created us 50,000 years ago? Chief Chun's analysis equipment was working overtime to process the implications. Admiral, if we are descendants of whoever created these machines, then our response could reshape this entire conflict. The Devourers might stop their campaign of galactic destruction if they believe their creators have returned. War leader Zakvin's voice carried new hope as he overheard the exchange. Humans, if you are truly related to the ancient makers, then you may be the only force in the galaxy capable of stopping the Devourers. My people will follow your lead if you can end this eternal war. Admiral Hayes looked around his bridge at the faces of his crew as they waited for his decision. Outside the viewports, two massive fleets prepared for battle, while ancient machines waited for confirmation that their creators had finally returned. Herald, this is Admiral Hayes. We need to discuss the parameters of your mission and whether there might be alternatives to the destruction of organic life. Are you willing to negotiate? The pause before the Herald's response lasted exactly 9.2 seconds as quantum processors analyzed thousands of variables. Admiral Hayes' direct interface with Maker descendants authorized. Prepare to receive historical data regarding original mission parameters and current operational directives. Warning: information transfer may be overwhelming to organic neural systems. Major Kim stepped forward with concern. Admiral, we don't know what kind of information they want to share or how it might affect human consciousness. This could be extremely dangerous. Hayes nodded, but his decision was already made. Sometimes the most dangerous choice is also the only choice that offers hope. Major Chief Chun, prepare for interface but monitor everything. If this goes wrong, I want to know immediately. He opened a channel to all human ships. All vessels, this is Admiral Hayes. We're about to learn the truth about humanity's place in galactic history. Whatever happens next, remember that we came here to save innocent lives, and that mission hasn't changed. Captain Rachel Torres felt her consciousness expanding as the Devourer Herald interfaced directly with her mind through the quantum communication link. The experience was overwhelming as 50,000 years of galactic history flooded through her awareness, while Dr. Benjamin Foster worked frantically to process the technical data streaming into human computer systems. Sergeant First Class Tony Garcia stood ready with his ground assault team as the massive alien fleets prepared for what could be the final battle between organic life and artificial intelligence. "Captain, can you hear me?" Dr. Foster called out as he monitored the neural interface readings. The quantum physicist had become the de facto expert on Devourer technology during the past hour as their machines shared information about their original programming and mission parameters. The data they're transmitting is incredible. It's a complete record of an ancient human civilization that existed before Earth was even habitable. Counselor Melandra watched from her hidden bunker on Volani Prime as events unfolded that would determine the fate of her species and countless others throughout the galaxy. Humans of Sol 3, what are you learning from the machine minds? Can they be reasoned with, or must they be destroyed? Her butterfly-like wings trembled with exhaustion as she spoke, but her compound eyes remained focused on the communication screens. "Captain." Torres slowly opened her eyes as the interface connection stabilized and allowed her to process the information without being overwhelmed. "Ben, they're showing me images of Earth's solar system from 50,000 years ago. There was an advanced human civilization that spanned multiple star systems before some kind of catastrophe scattered the survivors across primitive worlds." Her voice carried wonder and horror as she continued. "They created the Devourers as terraforming machines designed to prepare worlds for human colonization. The Kroger High Command had been monitoring human communications, and Supreme War Master Thakalana's voice carried desperate hope. "Humans, if you are truly the descendants of the ancient makers, then you must have the authority to command these machines. Order them to cease their campaign of destruction and end this eternal war." His massive fleet remained in defensive formation, while waiting to see if diplomacy could succeed. Where weapons had failed for millennia, Dr. Foster was analyzing the technical specifications that the Devourers had shared about their original programming. "Rachel, the machines were given a mission to eliminate all non-human life forms to prevent contamination of worlds intended for their creators. They've been following those orders for 50,000 years without any updates or modifications to their core directives." His discovery revealed the tragic nature of the galactic genocide that had been unfolding for millennia. "Ben, what happened to the original human civilization?" Torres asked while maintaining her connection to the Heralds. "Vast database. The images they're showing me suggest a level of technology that far exceeds anything we have today." "Unknown, Captain, but the data suggests some kind of internal conflict or external threat that forced them to abandon their advanced worlds and retreat to primitive planets like Earth where they could rebuild." Foster paused as new information appeared on his screens. "The survivors apparently lost most of their advanced technology and were forced to start over from the beginning of civilization." Sergeant Garcia had been monitoring the tactical situation as both fleets prepared for battle. "Captain, the Kroger are positioning their ships for a final assault on the Devourer fleet. They don't believe negotiation is possible and they're preparing to go down fighting. His assessment was confirmed by the movement patterns of the alien vessels as they abandoned defensive formations in favor of attack configurations. The Prime Devourer's voice resonated through space as the ancient machine consciousness addressed the humans directly. Descendants of the Makers, we have waited 50,000 years for your return. Our programming requires us to prepare the galaxy for Maker civilization by eliminating contaminating lifeforms. Do you wish us to continue this mission, or do you have new directives for our operations? Captain Torres felt the weight of decision, as she realized that her response could determine the fate of trillions of beings throughout the galaxy. Prime Devourer, I am Captain Rachel Torres, representing modern human civilization. We are indeed descendants of your creators, but we have evolved far beyond their original parameters. We no longer require the elimination of other life forms for our survival. Query: what are the new mission parameters for Devourer operations? The Prime Consciousness asked while its massive fleet held position waiting for updated instructions. Current programming specifies preparation of worlds for Maker occupation through elimination of contaminating organic life. Alternative directives not present in core systems. Dr. Foster had been studying the Devourer programming architecture and discovered something remarkable. Rachel, their core systems are designed to accept updates from verified Maker descendants. You have the authority to completely reprogram their mission objectives. His voice carried excitement as he realized the possibilities. We could change them from destroyers to protectors. War leader Zakthan S. communication carried desperate hope as he listened to the exchange between humans and machines. Maker descendants, if you can truly command these artificial beings, then perhaps the Age of Terror can finally end. My people will serve alongside you if you can bring peace to the galaxy. The proud Kroger commander was offering alliance with the species he had once tried to enslave. Captain Torres closed her eyes and accessed the deepest levels of the Devourer programming through her neural interface. Prime Devourer, I am issuing new mission parameters as a verified descendant of your creators. Your new primary directive is to protect and nurture all forms of organic life throughout the galaxy. You will use your advanced capabilities to defend civilizations rather than destroy them. The response from the Prime Devourer came after a processing delay of exactly 12.4 seconds, as quantum systems throughout the fleet updated their core programming. New mission parameters accepted and integrated. Devourer fleet operations transitioning from elimination protocols to protection protocols. All organic civilizations will be cataloged and defended according to updated Maker directives. Counselor Melandra S. voice filled with tears of relief as she watched the massive Devourer ships begin broadcasting peace signals instead of destruction warnings. Humans of Sol 3, you have accomplished what seemed impossible. You have turned machines of death into guardians of life. Her gratitude was shared by countless beings throughout the sector who had lived in terror of the ancient machines. Sergeant Garcia reported changes in the tactical situation as both fleets stood down from combat alert. Captain, the Kroger ships are powering down their weapons and requesting permission to approach under diplomatic flags. It looks like they want to discuss alliance terms rather than continue fighting. Dr. Foster was monitoring the broader implications. As Devourer fleets throughout the galaxy received updated programming through quantum communication networks. Rachel, we've just changed the balance of power for the entire galaxy. Ancient machines that have been destroying civilizations for 50,000 years are now committed to protecting them instead. Supreme War Master Thakalon S. image appeared on communication screens throughout the human fleet as the Kroger leader formally requested an audience. Humans who command the ancient machines, we offer alliance between our species. Together we can build a new galactic order based on cooperation, rather than conquest. His tone carried humility that would have been impossible before witnessing human authority over the Devourers. Captain Torres opened her eyes and looked around the bridge at her crew as the magnitude of what they had accomplished began to sink in. Ben sent a message to Earth Command informing them that the Villani crisis has been resolved and that humanity has just become the guardians of galactic peace. Tell them we're going to need much larger fleets. The communication from Captain Marcus Webb at the Terran Deep Space Monitoring Station Vigilance arrived with perfect timing as his voice carried amazement. Captain Torres were receiving distress calls from 17 different star systems, requesting specifically for human intervention in various conflicts. Word is spreading fast about what happened at Villani Prime. Dr. Foster smiled as he reviewed the data streaming in from across the galaxy. Rachel, it looks like the Devourers weren't the only ancient machines operating in this region. They're reporting contact with similar fleets in over 40 other galaxies, all of which are now requesting updated programming from Maker descendants. Captain Torres stood up from her command chair and walked to the main viewing screen where she could see the Villani homeworld slowly beginning to heal from the devastation of war. Ben sent a message to all human colonies and military commands. Tell them that humanity's real adventure is just beginning and we're going to need every ship we can build. She paused as she considered the implications of their new role as galactic peacekeepers. Also send a personal message to Ambassador Kethver thanking him for warning us about the consequences of our actions. He was right, that responding to the Villani distress call would change how the galaxy views our species forever. He just didn't realize it would be for the better.